In 2010, they had a cabbage crop failure, and the price rose by 400%.
Oh.
And they spent millions on the South Korean astronaut who went up into space, and so she could have a kimchi that was bacterially more sound and would survive in space better, because it was absolutely crucial to her well-being as a Korean. And indeed, Chung Il-kwon, when he was president during the Vietnam War, said to President Johnson, who asked if when he was away, you're missing Korea, so he said, to be honest, he missed kimchi more than he missed his wife.
Kimchi, the name of his mistress?
Possibly. Anyway, for Koreans, kimchi is literally out of this world. How can you get money out of the King of Scotland? It's a wonderful photograph, isn't it? Well, obviously, he's not the King of Scotland. This was a very early King of Scotland, nearly 1,000 years ago. There he is. He was King David I.
Oh, Dave, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Dave.
Of course, yeah, you see with the beard now, yeah.
Wee Davy.
Because he didn't always have the beard,
No,
and then he grew it.
That's right.
For Movember.
When he was a baby.
It was a tiny, tiny king. Small.
He really was. Very, very small.
Can we have some money, King David?
He would reward people, give them a tax rebate if they had good...
Shortbread.
Scones.
Scones, shortbread.
Deep fried Mars bars.
Table manners?
Say it again.
Table manners?
Is the right answer. He would reward people for their table manners. He immediately took her elbows off. Whoa!
Never know.
Fantastic. Plus 5 points for good table manners. The 12th century King David I of Scotland, yes, according to William of Malmesbury, gave tax rebates for good table manners. Talking table manners and royalty, which member of the royal family would you least expect to have had terrible table manners?
Queen Victoria.
Queen Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah. And she was... Jesus.
Was she still of a generation who thought that blowing off at the end of a meal was a compliment?
No, I don't think
I've been
so.
using that one for years, you know.
I think
It's a compliment to the chef.
I think you're confusing it with burping.
Oh, God, sorry.
All this time, it's never a compliment to blow off at the table. There's food.
Unless you're a nun.
Yeah, unless you're a nun.
What's to do about Maria?
It does look like rather a joyless table,
Which
doesn't
one of
it?
those is Queen Victoria, for goodness sake?
And which one of those?
One like
Those would be
Winston
Edward
Churchill in
I
drag.
think that would be Edward VII on the right,
No,
wouldn't
no,
it?
no, one of the little boys will be Edward
Oh, I
the
see
Eighth.
what you mean. It would be his son. Yes, David. It
The
would
second
be.
one.
Which one is Colin Firth?
That would be the youngest one on the left, I think. That's Colin Firth. And in the middle is Queen Victoria.
Why is she so, you know...
Joyless.
Yeah.
Well, she was not amused, if you remember, ever since her
Yeah,
husband
no,
died.
you thought once she's at the table with her family, she'd bloody smile.
No, she was...
Brats are so annoying when you're having your brats.
Especially when you have
She's like that.
she was a large woman, and she was only 4'11" high.
Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue.
She stood up there.
No,
12 stone.
but she weighed 12 stone, is exactly what she weighed.
She had a
Which is
50-inch waist.
50-inch.
Well, her bloomers were 50 inches.
As collected by Norman St. John Stevens, the
I didn't know
Yes, he
that.
did. He collected Victoria's underwear. Literally. Not Victorian, but Victoria's.
And he started the lingerie shop Victoria's Secrets. That's what he sells. I've never been in, but I presume that's what they're selling now.
Presumably it is. The fact is, because she was queen, she got served first at dinner, and she would start eating. And she would get through a 14-course dinner in half an hour.
Wow.
And once she'd finished, everyone else had their food taken away.
Brilliant.
And she would just gobble away at incredible speed. Lord Hartington, who was one of her courtiers, was heard to shout at a footman, "Bring that back!" She was so angry at the fact that by the time you just got your soup spoon in, she was going, "Well, that was very lovely." And her doctors became concerned about her obesity, and they recommended Benger's food, which was one of these supplements. And this was a thick, milky gruel often given to invalids and the elderly. So she agreed. She took it on top of her normal diet.
She wasn't going to fit on the coins.
That's a brilliant idea. Just get a little bit of the middle of it, a bit of
Coins got
breast.
bigger and bigger and bigger.
Huge coins. A whole penny for The lavatory doors were vast to spend a penny. Well done. Now, here's the skull of King Richard III, but what can you tell me about his table manners just by looking at it?
Well, he's very good at eating Toblerone.
Anything else you can tell? What's unusual about his teeth compared to ours?
Space for a straw. That
The
would be.
space for straw, yes. Notice your teeth, the top row
Yeah.
and the bottom row. Close your mouth, naturally.
Yeah.
Your top row,
Yeah.
overbite. We've all got an overbite. Cruelly called by Billy Crystal in When Harry Met Sally, dancing white man's overbite. But the actual overbite, literally like that, is a recent thing in human beings. And it comes after forks, because we cut up our food. And in the days when we wrenched our food, the incisors would get smoothed down more, and the teeth would fit exactly. And it shows that Richard III didn't use a fork for cutting his food, which we know, because forks were not used for transferring food to your mouth. Right up to Tudor times, you would use your hands.
So if we brought up children without knives and forks, they wouldn't develop an overbite?
No.
You know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to come back here in 21 years' time.
Call me a liar.
With
It's true, I
a
don't know
really
whether-
resentful-looking boy.
Well, I've got twins, so I'm going to do one and
Brilliant. Brilliant.
and have the perfect experiment.
It is superb. Unethical, but perfect. And you can sort of show this by the difference in civilizations who developed overbites. And 1,000 years ago, you can see where Chinese aristocratic skulls have an overbite, but peasants don't. And it's when they started to use chopsticks and chop up their food, and then it spread throughout the population. So it really does, it sounds weird, but this overbite we have is an acquired characteristic because of our chopping up of food. You can just tell by looking at skulls. You just go through any graveyard, dig people up, and you'll see I'm right,
Stephen
Jason.
Fry told me to do it
Yeah.
while I'm chewing on a turtle. Really bad influence.
Yeah. So, anyway, name the traditional ingredients of kedgeree.
Well, now there's some of them on the screen.
Yeah.
Right, say right. Eggs.
I think Victoria wanted to answer this one.
Yes.
Haddock.
Oh, dear, You wanted that, didn't you?
What about egg?
Egg,
Rice.
yes, egg. Rice means a mix-up. And fish is a very recent thing to be an absolute essential of kedgeree. In fact, the Hobson-Jobson Dictionary of Anglo-Indian Words, which is one of the great books of its time, it says, in England we find the word is often applied to a mess of recooked fish served for breakfast, but this is inaccurate. Fish is frequently eaten with kedgeree, but is no part of it. Oh. So it now tends to be flaked haddock and a bit of cream and curry powder and rice and boiled egg, and it's absolutely delicious. But I'll give you 100 points if you can name 2 traditional Italian breads.
Oh, so tempting.
Well, now, ciabatta.
Already there. Ciabatta was invented in 1982, can you believe? It's that recent.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Right,
it was
and-
an Italian baker who was worried about the threat of French baguettes. And it's the Italian for, you can redeem yourself if you know.
Baguette.
That would be too easy. No, it's not really the shape of it.
Handbag?
Well, that's closer. It's-
Slipper.
Yes! Brilliant. It was a slipper,
Yeah.
yes. He was Arnaldo Cavallari was his name. And it was a specific invention. He called it ciabatta polesano. Polesine is a part of northern Italy. So it really is very recent. Some people claim that it was around since the 40s, but there doesn't seem to be any proof of this. The name doesn't appear before 1982. Now, what can you see coming out of your kettle as it boils?
Vapour.
Is the right answer. Not steam.
I wasn't going to say steam.
No, as if you would, because
Yeah.
steam is...
The stuff that comes out the kettle. Oh,
Steam is invisible. It does come out of the kettle,
really?
but sometimes you see a gap. You know, you get a little gap, and then you see the vapour. And the gap is steam. It's an invisible gas. And as soon as it cools, even slightly, it turns to water vapour. And that's the bit you see. We call it steam, but it isn't. Steam is actually invisible. Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
Thank you.
So
It's
I
VI.
tell my children not to eat their food till the steam's gone. Now what am I going to say?
But I mean, yeah, in ordinary, everyday speech, things steam and steamy are, you know, manure steams and...
I tell them not to eat manure.
Not till the steam's gone off it.
I'm glad to hear it. Did you know that in 1784 there was a kettle war
Wow.
between...
It was always between Morphy and Richards, wasn't it? And in the end, they joined together.
It was all fine. It was between the Dutch and the Austrians. One shot took place on the Austrian flagship. A bullet was fired by the Dutch and hit a kettle and ricocheted off, and the Austrians immediately surrendered. So it was known as the Kettle War.
How funny.
There you are. Well, we have to end now with a knick-knack, which I sometimes end with. This is... Oh, this is exciting. This is a remarkable substance. It's called polyethylene oxide. And it's very gloopy, and also it reacts rather excitedly under ultraviolet light. And Alan and Victoria got ultraviolet torches, and you can point them at it. And I think we might have some ultraviolet light in this studio.
Shall I point them now, sir?
Yes, please do. Oh, look, see? Wow. Ooh. Now, what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to stand up to do this. It's a very remarkable effect. The effect is when you pour it, if I get it at the right angle, it pulls itself out of the flask and into here. It flows uphill and out and down again. All right. There we go. It's pulling itself up, it's pulling itself up. You see what I mean? It's pulling itself up from the bottom. If you look at the top one,
wow.
It's actually flowing uphill there. Did you see that?
Wow.
And then it thins out into a little trail of snot. I'll try that again. So we just get it.
That's like when it's like when you have a wee after a Barocca, isn't it?
It is! That's exactly what it's like. Oh, goodness. It's so disgusting. Polyethylene oxide. I don't know what else.
What's it used for?
It's a very good masturbatory lubricant. Particularly in the dark.
Yeah.
All right, let's
It's a little bit awkward getting two friends to hold the torch, though.
Yeah, there we go. That's pulling itself up on this bit. So there we go. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, my special ultraviolet helpers. Well, on that exciting note, let's go to the scores. Oh, my actual goodness. It's really remarkable. I'm afraid, possibly because he was booby-trapped into it, in last place with -38 is Jason Manford. In a highly creditable third place with -17 is Richard Osman. Which is very impressive. And in second place with -7 is Victoria Wood. But scraping into a lead by 1 point on -6 is Alan Davis. And with thanks to Victoria, Richard, Jason and Alan, it's good night.
Well, the cat's out of the bag in Hebburn next on BBC Two. Sarah's not too happy reading about herself in a national newspaper. Then the series Best Bits from Buzzcocks at 11:35 tonight. But where's the missing episode?